Hey everybody, welcome back to Something to Complain About. This is A. I'm here with T. What's up, T? What's frequency?
As
Do we have a
always,
frequency today?
it's erratic. As always.
That works. That works. I think our last episode, as you so eloquently put it, we were talking about how Gen Z was basically fucked. In this episode, we're going to focus a little bit more on Gen X, and we are surely fucked. Buckle up, folks. Here we go.
What isn't the whole purpose of this channel to just talk about how everything is fucked?
Yes. I mean, that's something to complain about, right? We could have called it Keep on Bitchin' or something to squeal about, or I'm sure we come up with other options, but we just went with complain about. So they're trying to be nice. We have dropped some of the veneer of nice. I'm not sure when we did it, but we absolutely departed from it with the high school reunion episode. We just kind of left that one and never came back. So
No, I think it happened in the first episode with the small talk at the beginning when I talk about obit stalking. That pretty much set the tone for everything else. We did turn a little corner with the high school reunion. Oh, as a matter of fact, about a week ago, he got a text from one of my childhood friends. We've been friends since we were 5. So we started kindergarten together, went all the way through high school. And she texted me and she's like, I knew you weren't going to go to our high school reunion before. She went on to tell me that, and no surprise, that some of our classmates were already, a couple months ago, like, so what are we doing for our 30th? When are we all getting together? It'll be fantastic. So she said she's not going either. So I'm like, yes, fight the power.
Interesting, because after we did that episode, literally, was it the same day? I can't remember. I think I texted it to you very near that recording. I got a Facebook message that was sent out to my entire high school class saying, hey, yes, by the way, our 30th is coming up. What do you all think? I didn't respond. I just watched the responses come in, and I saw one of the people I'm still in contact with. There's only one or two that I still actually have contact with on a regular basis. They wrote, hey, in the past, we've all talked about getting together and doing stuff, and we never actually make plans. So could we make some plans so that we all know what to expect? And nobody responded.
It was like radio silence.
I kind of texted her on the side, and I was like, what do you think's going to happen? And she's like, I just don't think anybody's going to make any plans. I think people are just going to show up if they're going to show up. And I was like, why don't you just set a date? And if there is no firm plan, we'll just make our own. We'll just go do our own thing or whatever. Yeah. She's like, if you want to come back, I've got extra space for you. And I was like, that's fine. But do you really want to stay there if we don't come to you? What's the point? The likelihood is none of them listen to us. If they are listening to us, maybe take that as your feedback. Plan some stuff. Communicate with each other. People might want to come back more frequently.
No, or at least give us the opportunity to know what we're rejecting.
It's true, too. So, anyway, we took a little tangent there off that thing, but we can always come back now to the thing we're supposed to be complaining about.
Now we're planning ahead. And I don't think you're going to be surprised at this topic. And I think we have already established the fact that my retirement plan is basically living in your spare bedroom. We've
had that
and our elder, that room is mine. Me and my animals will live in that room. There is a phenomenon now called silver squatting. Yeah, Gen X, the oldest of our brethren, are turning 60 this year. We do not have enough money saved up for retirement.
Yeah.
So now the slacker in me is actually kind of proud of that because at least we're consistent.
We are.
We are.
And we're not alone.
We're not alone. But here's the thing. Our entire last episode was talking about these poor Gen Zers who, well, some of our contemporaries have decided that their retirement plan is to live with and live off their millennial and Gen Z children when the time comes.
Yes.
Make it make sense because these babies can't. So
That's
are we
the
just
thing.
talking? So is everybody just going to live together forever?
That seems to be the thing here, right? My first question is, are we all going to get to retire? Do we actually think that something's going to happen? Or are most
No.
of us going to be just working until we drop one day? The interesting statistics in the article you shared with me from Yahoo Finance were that 20-25% of Gen Xers are expecting. Expecting is the word that they use. I think I want to stick with expecting because going to need is different than expecting, right?
Right.
They're expecting to need help from their kids when they retire, which is where we get the name squatter. But the median 55-year-old, according to the article, has about $50,000 in retirement savings, which, they're 10 years out.
Right.
That 50,000 isn't going to grow to a ton by itself. You're going to have to pump a lot more money into it. And you can't retire on $50,000. Maybe you can, depending on if you own your house, if you don't have rent to pay, if you're just having to buy groceries and pay utilities. But that still doesn't go very far. What do you do after your first year or two? How's that supposed to work? This is the WTF reality for our generation. We didn't have a lot of financial literacy coming in, which I think we did an episode about, right? We talked about the credit cards on campus. We demonstrated our lack of financial literacy and how we manage those credit cards. At least I did. So did most people I knew. You got the economic uncertainty realities that have plagued our generation. You've got the inflationary realities that have come and gone during our generation. The uncertainty surrounding Social Security, whether or not we're actually going to have it or not have it. Like, we thought growing up we'd always have it, but I'm starting to wonder if that's even possible. So now you're thinking like, well, if we can't have that, what are we going to have?
I have never had Social Security calculated into any of my retirement planning because I'm assuming it's not going to be there. I'm also kind of assuming that the odds of me making it to retirement age are not very high. I get so tired of paying taxes every year. Now I own my own business. Every year the preparer's like, oh, you're paying into your Social Security. I always laugh. Both my parents were dead in their mid-50s, so they never got to see their Social Security. If you're looking at genetics, neither am I. And if I do make it that long, I don't guarantee that it's going to be there. With this, whose script are we following? There's an ad within the article that's talking about who can retire on $1 million. Well, I'm sitting here going, holy shit, if I had $1 million saved for retirement, I would be living better than I ever have. I think sometimes the conversation about retirement and the reality of expectations of retirement are two different things. And really, Social Security, and like you think of like the start of the AARP, that was all started because our elders were living destitute lives with no safety net. And then it's turned into the like, if you don't have at least $1 million saved and everything paid off by the time you retire, you're a fucking loser. And if you don't want to like tour the world and you're a loser, some of it is changes in the perception of aging, but whose narrative is this? Even my extended family members who are able to give themselves a comfortable retirement where they don't have to worry about money, they had about 3 good years and then their health crapped out on them.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So for both of us being individuals who
At least.
it is very interesting. And I guess I've never had any delusions of grandeur as to what my retirement would look like.
I don't think I still don't really even know how to conceptualize it. The idea that you should have $1 million set aside, worst case scenario, seems pie in the sky. Part of this is also, I think, it's not like when we came out of high school, we had a good understanding of how we were supposed to prepare. They don't teach this, and maybe they teach it now. We certainly didn't learn financial literacy. We didn't learn financial planning. We didn't learn like when do you get insurance? When, like, life insurance? When do you do investments? How do you do that? Even if you start super young with just a small amount of money, every paycheck. I had a 401k in my first job out of college. Whatever my employer put in, I put in too. So if it was a 3% or 5% match, I put the same percent in, and is what I did. I thought that was fine. I thought if I just did that, and I probably would have been fine if I wouldn't have had to take some of that out at one point. That was all I knew. I didn't know anything else. I didn't know that there were other ways to invest. Most of the things that become stock, like, they sound like they're
Mhm.
completely out of reach for people who grew up on a farm or in rural America where you were kind of paycheck to
Well,
paycheck.
okay, a lot of things. Like if you're talking 401k, that's one thing because you can sit down and you can plan where you want your money to go. But there still are a lot of barriers and a lot of gatekeeping to get into true investing.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I was talking with a coworker and she was working with her financial advisor. And at that time, soon after my mom had passed away, I had a little bit of inheritance, but he wouldn't even take an appointment unless you had 10,000 minimum right there on the spot to potentially invest. So there's still a lot of opportunity, but then again, there's a lot of gatekeeping that if you really want to generate the true wealth, and that was almost 20 years ago. So today that number is probably 25,000. And when you talk about, yeah, if you're middle class or upper middle class, you can do that. But coming from a working class family where I got my one parent died without any money, where do you start?
That's why we're
It's,
silver squatters.
yeah,
We don't have anybody to
yeah.
squat with. That's the problem.
No, I'm squatting with you. I already told you that.
That's true.
I
They blame it a little bit on poor planning. They blame it on economic uncertainty, like we talked about, inflationary issues. But I also think they mention something we've talked about briefly in different episodes, the sandwich generation,
Yes.
right, where we obviously do not have kids. People in our generation who have kids are stuck in a situation where they're trying to raise their kids and do the things they're supposed to do for the kids. But then as their parents are aging,
Mhm.
they're taking care of them too. And now they've got parents living with them, or they've got parents who need help.
Well,
And so they're burning money everywhere and not
and
able to focus on their own. What am I doing for myself long term?
and I have seen where the younger boomers, like the older boomers, they made out just fine. But the younger half of the boomers, they did not get the retirement opportunities and things like that that even the older boomers got. So not only is the sandwich generation taking care of their parents, but their boomer parents, but those particular boomers didn't have the opportunity to save money like the older boomers did and like the silent generation did. So again, we're seeing this generational piece, but it goes back to who's making all of these expectations? Like, where's this narrative coming from? Because we know not all things are equal. And I remember 10 years ago meeting with the 401k financial planner where I was working. And she was like, "Oh, so tell me about your goal for retirement." A nice little trailer or apartment in Santa Fe.
This discussion.
And she was like, "Really? That's it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And maybe enough money to take a trip every so often if my health allows. But otherwise, yeah, give me my little piece of land and my little apartment and hell.
Yeah.
And there's no tornadoes in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I'd be comfortable living in a trailer there. I'll live in a trailer. I don't give a shit. I was just surprised. Like, why would I assume that my lifestyle is going to become suddenly magnificent when I retire? I'm fine with the lifestyle I have now, and I operate on the assumption that when I retire, I'll be downsizing.
I don't know who gets a better lifestyle when they retire. I
So the thing is that part of the dream that I work so hard and then I can just live this fantasy life once I hit retirement? Is that where the million is coming in from? Because I see way too many people beyond retirement age working and even working part time to know that ain't happening. So again, it's like, what's the fantasy versus what do you actually need? And the kicker is when I met with her, we figured I was right on track for what my goals were.
I'll
You
have to
know,
come visit you in New Mexico.
I can, you can stay in my casita.
We're gonna have a pet buffalo or something. I feel like there's a pet buffalo in your trailer in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico.
Okay.
Was
Yeah.
that a fantasy discussion?
Here's the thing. If I have enough money to buy some land in New Mexico and then get a trailer, and then I will get a bison and a William and Buffy. And
It's Buffy.
I will teach him how to go into the trailer because you can train cattle and bison to go into your house.
Yeah. Me. What?
Don't judge me.
I didn't judge you. You would try. I know you would try.
I would.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with the like. I think that's the thing is I think to some extent the older boomers had this idea that when they retired it was going to be cruises once or twice a year and Europe trips and going places and doing things. And for some of them, because they got into life at the right time,
Right.
and the people who bought their house for 15 or 20 grand and then ended up having it become a $800,000 property.
Graduate from college with no debt because everything was grants back then.
Or you could pay for it with a job.
Right. Over summer.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like with so many other conversations that we've had, it's one generation, all the love in the history of mankind. And then all of a sudden, here's all these expectations that we all have to follow. And it really is just kind of that blip on the radar. But I do think we are going to see, because when you look at the history of the world and how the rest of the world looks, and most of the world still, have multi-generational households.
Yeah.
And so the United States has been very rare, and it's only been the last few generations where you really saw that each generation had its own household. Like, I think my grandparents, they grew up with their grandparents. And everybody lived in the same house, 3 generations. And anybody who was an aunt or uncle or unmarried cousin, they just lived in. Everybody had a room or shared a room. And that was typical even in the United States up until recently. And even now, for some populations in the United States. That is calm.
Yes.
So when you start thinking about I need, I want, when you think about like, okay, well, most of the rest of the world, people don't leave home until they get married. Parents move in with you when they get older, or you move in with your parents. One of my sisters-in-law, my husband's oldest sister, she moved back and took care of her parents the last about 10 years that they were alive. She did. They needed the little extra help, and she saw that. And she was at a point in life where she was like, okay, she's kind of preparing for retirement and stuff. So I think we are going to see more of a return to that. And I
Yes.
think we are going to see more of the Golden Girls kind of living situation where, somebody may have the house that they raised their family in. It has a couple bedrooms and rent them out, and then it's affordable. And I think over the history of the world, that has been the norm. It has not been the norm to live in a 3,000 square foot home until you're 80 and then move to an expensive retirement community. That is so out of the norm of human experience. But somehow, this is what we all should strive to achieve.
Like the Golden Girls idea.
Do you like the Golden Girls idea?
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, why couldn't that be a better model for assisted living? Right? Because assisted living isn't so much I mean, most assisted livings are not necessarily for people who have complicated medical issues,
Right.
right? Why wouldn't we try to find ways to say, hey, we're going to buy this house as a group and share the mortgage or pool our
Right.
money and just pay for it in cash. And then
Right.
we're going to share the expenses of living here so that we can keep stuff down and live our lives. We can help each other cook if we need to, or if you need to go to the doctor and need a ride. That way you've got people around you that you trust. You're not spending thousands of dollars a month in a facility. That might be a better model for our generation.
The money doesn't scare me because I can live off of very little money. I can live off very little money. The thing that bothers me as I get older is maintaining, because I don't have children. So I don't have children who I'm going to assume are going to take care of me, which good luck with that, people. If I took excellent care of one parent and completely ignored the other, and they know why. They know what they did. But but I think that's the piece that scares me the most is that social. If something happens to my husband, who is going to take me to, even like when I have to go to the ophthalmologist and get my eyes dilated, like
And you
you
can't
got to have
drive.
it right. And I can't drive. Those things bother me more than some of the other things. And then also just the practicality of things. Like, we have a small house. My husband and I have what to do to keep up with the house and the yard. We have a spare bedroom upstairs and a room downstairs. If the time comes and I'm older, then why would I have one or two other people move in? And then it becomes, you have that social piece, which is so critical to overall health and longevity. And
Yes.
then you just have that shared responsibility. If the air conditioner goes out, I'm not the only one who has to pay for it. Or people have been paying me rent and now I got money for it. It's very fascinating to me because I have met a very interesting nonagenarian because she's 93. And she is the mother of one of my friends. It's very interesting listening to her because she's 93. She's totally with it. Up until very recently, she was living on her own. She broke her hip recently, so they're dealing with that. And what I have learned in my conversations with her is it's all about, at the end of the day for her, her daily goals, which might even just be, I'm going to walk to the mailbox today and I'm going to do this
Yeah.
little long, but she's got something to do. That social piece. It's the daily phone calls and FaceTime with her daughters. It's the nice young man who is one of her neighbors who comes by and they go for a walk. And then my friend goes, Ma, he's 78. Mom's like, that's a nice young man. Here, 23, 78 is a nice young man. But, and then they walk around the block together. And she knows all of her neighbors and she goes to church on Sunday. As I'm looking at things, it's like, okay, it's not so much her house that they've had paid off for 40 years already. It's the social connection and talking to people every day and getting out there. That's the piece that I'm most worried about. Money, the money always happens. It might not be what you want ideally, but when I've really needed money, something comes through. Something happens and it helps cover it. You can call that part of magical thinking. I don't give a shit. It just goes back to whose dream is this? I guess my dream and my reality is like, I don't expect to be living any better at 70 than I am at 48.
No, I guess if I think about it, I don't want to be in an assisted living. I'd like to
Right.
keep it to family and friends if we need to have housemates or something. As long as we can buy food and we have shelter and we can get clothes when we need them, we have transportation when we need it. And if we can do some nice things once in a while, I'm not expecting to be in Europe half the year and in Hawaii a month or two. And like, that would be lovely, but that is not how we grew up. That would be
Well,
fantastical thinking on our
and
parts.
and that's not how you've lived. Like that's not your
No,
lived
no.
experience. Maybe because like everybody, my dad's family, they all die before they get to retirement. And my mom was gone before that. I've seen too many people who bank on everything happening at retirement and then something going wrong. Like I know two women who were colleagues who within a year of them finally retiring and their spouse finally retiring, the spouse dying. So all of a sudden they're widows. So you held on even beyond retirement age, but you held on for that extra year or two to get that extra income. You guys had these grand plans, and you actually could have been at home enjoying each other instead of putting in 50-hour work weeks at age 70 because you wanted that little bit more bank. And now you lost your man. You've lost your partner. And now you're dealing with the transition of retirement and losing your life partner within a year. And
It's a
for
lot.
what? For me, I would rather live in a hovel and come home to my man than work 10 extra years with this pie in the sky dream and have him drop dead on me 3 months after I finally retire to spend time with him.
That's fair.
Yeah, well, I've also been told like I have fucked up values, but those are mine. So, other people have different motivators, right? Speak the
I think
luxury of, I don't have to worry about kids. So,
this is true. For people who are looking at it and thinking, do I have enough money set aside? The question is, can I make my life better in retirement is a lovely goal, but it's also very unrealistic unless you're going to win the lottery.
and even
I
then,
think the
you
bigger,
don't know about your health.
right. Like, I think the bigger question is, can you just maintain what you have? I don't know how you calculate what you need in order to maintain what you have. That's the hard part. How do you figure out, hey, do I have enough? Well, is it going to be enough? I think that's part of what gets tricky here. A lot of people in our generation may not even have what they need. I mean, this statistic where you've got, what did we say it was, 50, the median 55-year-old, right? So median would be 50th percentile. The median 55-year-old, so half of 55-year-olds only have 50 grand in the bank. That's not even a good rainy day fund,
Well,
right?
okay.
Like that
But
becomes problematic. Are you just going to keep working?
wait a
What are you
minute.
going to do?
Well, okay, but you're operating on a lot of assumptions there.
You think they have something else?
They might have something else. Their house might be paid off. They might be debt free. They may have other investments going. You don't know what their spouse has. I mean, there's a lot of things. Like, I've known people too, and I am still mad about this, but as we talk about people who need to retire and they don't, and the one, I won't even honor her by calling her a colleague because she was just a hanger on, well over retirement age, husband well over retirement age, both working. He drops dead. They still live in their 5-bedroom house with 2 mortgages. $1 million is not going to help you in that situation. My house is going to be paid off well before my husband or I retire. So, well, if we're not looking at a mortgage payment, I mean, we're still looking at insurance and taxes, but what we have saved for what we got going on is all right for us. So I think there's danger in saying, how can you live off of $50,000? My grandparents lived years and years off of renting off their land.
That would make sense.
And they didn't have, they had some CDs and that was it. You don't know what other revenue or other plans people have. And I think that's where the conversation becomes dangerous because only 50. Okay, in some situations, I could stretch 50K out to last me a long damn time. In other situations, I could write a check worth 50K and it wouldn't even put a dent in something. So it's all about perspective. But I think it's dangerous when we start assuming that our kids are going to let us just move in with them.
It's definitely dangerous for you and me.
Well, yeah, because we don't have kids.
If I were in trouble.
Yeah.
I also just throw this out there. I don't particularly want to have to take care of aging parents myself. Right? Like, that's a financial burden I'm not sure I could handle.
That is a huge reason why where I'm at professionally and financially is because I spent so many years taking care of sick family members. You don't gain that loss in salary back.
No.
No. And I was from mid-20s to mid-30s. And, I know a lot of people were like, oh, that's okay because you'll make it. No. When it's gone, because that cost me a lot professionally through the years. Because guess what? Potential employers saw part-time because I could only work part-time. I'm taking care of my mom and my sister. Yeah. They didn't care that it was part-time at 30 hours or 35 hours. It was, well, you were part-time. So just a word of caution. It's one thing if somebody offers. If a child steps up, mom, dad, come move in with us or I'll move in with you. It's pretty dangerous thinking to just assume somebody's going to do something for you. Allow you to do something.
Yeah.
Because I think enough people have found out there are consequences for your decisions. I do not regret taking care of my mother, But I also faced the aftermath of, like I will always earn less money because, there was 10 years of income that was during prime years to grow in my career that I lost. That is a huge ask
Yes,
of your child.
it
Huge
is.
assumption to make.
There's no advice because we're basically just floating along and hoping it all works out. We might Golden Girls it. We might
We might
not.
golden.
We've got our options. You've got Buffy in the trailer, and that's great. I do think there are an awful lot of people our age who do not expect to be able to stop working because they are
Yeah.
always going to need some income, regardless of what they've got. We're the least invested, right? I mean, we're less invested than our boomers. And part of that is just because we've lived through a bunch of recessions. We've had a whole bunch of other economic craziness that's happened in our lifetimes. Our ability to maintain consistent and persistent income that allows us to sock away a larger amount of money so that we maybe might be able to upgrade in retirement is now putting us in that position where we're just going to have to be happy if we can maintain, even downgrade a little bit, and that's fine.
And really, that was the original intent. Earlier in the episode when I was talking about ARP and Social Security, it was that safety net piece to make sure that our elders did not die in abject poverty. And somehow, through the years, the narrative has been bastardized to where if you don't have this, 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 and this, then you're missing out. You suck. But there's a lot of variances in between. And I would totally be open to Golden Girls. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? It'd be great.
We need a Sophia.
I will be Sophia.
That
Time
works.
we get to that. And I will have shrunk from my 5'2.5" to about
Four
right at
foot 9.
5 foot. Yeah. It'll happen. Oh, and I know Italian now too. So I get to be Sophia. And people can be like, why is this crazy woman running around cursing at everybody in Italian? She's not even Italian. And you'll just be like, let her go. Just let her go.
That's a good way to do it.
Have you,
Yeah,
are you going to be, if I'm Sophia, are you Rose, Blanche, or Dorothy? You're going to be Dorothy, whether you want to be or not. You're a
I don't know.
Dorothy.
That's fine. I can be a Dorothy if I need to.
Be a Dorothy.
I was always a fan of all of them, so it didn't matter. I grew up in North Dakota, very close to where Rose grew up in Minnesota. It's all good. I think this is I think another one of those situations where we realize that we were not served well from the beginning. Nobody taught us what we needed to know to think about it, plan, and do stuff about it. That would have been helpful.
And
When do you get life insurance and what is that all about? And how do you pick life insurance? And do you need life insurance? And
that,
how do
that
you invest?
remember,
And how do you decide to do this stuff?
but remember too, that wasn't necessarily imparted on those who came before us. I still think a lot of this is just leftover from that blip that was the post-World War II economic boom,
Yeah.
first half of the baby boom, that like the narrative never changed, but reality did. And the farther we go out, and now that our oldest baby boomers are turning 80, we're realizing that, oh, wait a minute, that was just a little blip on the radar versus this is the new norm. Finding out
Yeah.
all the stuff, like it gets better and every generation improves. And really, when you look at the history of the world, well, over time, yes, but caveat,
It skipped us.
everything skips us, anything positive. So, yeah, clean out that spare bedroom because He and the other
Fantastic.
friends are going to be moving in and set up bunk beds.
We're going to need a different house, I guess. I know they lived in Miami, but I do not want to live in Florida.
What about Santa Fe?
I would love to live in New Mexico. I would not complain.
Okay. Can I have a buffalo? Mighty says he doesn't think so, unless he gets to have bison burgers.
You can't have Buffy and Eater.
That's what I keep telling him.
So, whatever Buffy is, he's just going to have to get them somewhere else. But
that's horrible. Then it would be like the silence of the buffalo, right? T goes to town and gets buffalo
Buffy's
burgers. Cousin. And then what do we do? Do we hold up the buffalo burger to Buffy and be like, do you recognize this?
No. We'd be nice.
That's George.
Santa Fe is fine. I have no problem with Santa Fe, so we can definitely do that. We hit the whole episode on how absolutely screwed we could be, but not necessarily are, which is kind of interesting. At the beginning, we thought we were going to be like, God, we really are screwed, but maybe we're not as screwed as we thought we were.
Okay, we're still screwed. But here's the thing.
We're used to it.
Well, we're used to it. And then too, like, by whose standards are we screwed? And I set my own standards. And I already got my ABCD plans for retirement. Yeah. If I make it that long, I'm sure everybody will be thrilled because I'll be in such a fantastic mood. It's kind of like our last episode where our little Gen Zers are walking around and they're swiping left or right. I don't know. Is that ideal? And for our lives never reach the ideal. So you just go, okay, what do we have to work with? How can we make this work? And you find a way.
It's going to be a little bit like growing up. We are going to, we're going to drink out of the hose. We're going to be latchkey-ish, and we're just going to survive however we have to.
Oh,
we're prepared for this.
Like the rest of humanity throughout the course of time, right? You're just going to make it through, make it work. So,
yeah. That'll do it. All right. Those of you listening still to us, if you've made it this far, we congratulate you and we apologize.
I apologize for nothing.
I know. Throw some comments in. Let us know what you think about the Silver Squatter thing, how your retirement planning is going. If you have any, like and subscribe. Get your friends to like and subscribe. Remember, we're free, so we do not affect your retirement in any way, shape, or form. That's all we got for today. Join us next time for something else to complain about. I do not speak for tea. Here's tea.
I have one question. I'd be a silver squatter if I squat with another silver squatter.
I think the silver squatter thing only applies to you living with your kids and not monetarily contributing. Right? Like, I'm living with you because I raised you. So
I need to hurry up and have a baby then. Shit,
good luck.
Wait a minute. I don't have the equipment.
It's going to be a problem, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Magical thinking.
It's good to have it.
Just bye,
we will
everybody.
see you all next time on something to complain about.
Bye.
And we're out. Right.